Hello everybody and welcome back to the stream, or if it's your first time here, welcome. Hope you're all having a fantastic Saturday, or whatever day it is for you right now, and we are back. So yeah, we started the next part of the Devil last stream, last night. We're in the middle of the trial, very heated, and we might just be about able to prove that the killer of Officer Chopin and the four Blue Bloods was not CKER, the man who, while he is an assassin, he was beaten half to death, and we're expected to think that he murdered 5 people. No. Especially when we know that we are the murderer of 4 of the 5 people, you know? And it looks like we're about to get him off, but not without a fight from the prosecutor. It's a work of fiction. Yeah, I think we might... I don't know if this is going to be the end of the episode by the end of this stream, but I feel like we're getting close. We've done 2 different investigations. This is our 2nd appearance in the court. It's more than likely that we're about to be done, and it seems like we're about to prove the case that Sosuke did not in fact kill these people. It seems like we're about to do that, but you know, Emma's gonna give us a hard time. Oh, I almost forgot to turn the music up. Also, am I unmuted? I am unmuted. Very good. Counsel is badgering, Your Honor, and losing her meager thread of logic in the process. The previous witness testified that there was, in fact, a silent alarm at night. A silent alarm that needs to be actively pressed. It could only have gone out before Creek's heart stopped. Said witness responded to the alarm by traveling on foot, and yet arrived well before Rogers and Chopin. The lower wards are maze-like. She could have been closer. That whistle has a limited range over which it can be received. You propose that Officer Rogers and Chopin were within that limited range at 9:45 p.m., yes? Obviously you do, or else they would have never received the frequency at all. So person H is on foot and individual R is in a police car. And they both receive a signal at the same time, and a train leaves Appletown at 3 p.m. That seems like an irrelevant factor. All the court needs to consider is this. How could Officer Rogers and Chopin have possibly arrived later than someone traveling on foot if all 3 were within that range? I mean, Han just needed to be closer by. Or it just had to be that Rogers is lying about how far away they were. Can't believe I told my geometry teacher that none of this would ever be useful. This isn't geometry, damn it, it's just logic. The fact is, they did arrive later than Han. If I'm right about the motivation for Chopin's actions that night, if he was sitting in his police car and suddenly got a notification telling him some Blue Bloods were having a life-or-death emergency, how would he react in that moment? It would seem that the defense does not have evidence available to address this contradiction, Your Honor. Evidence explaining exactly how Chopin proceeded to the crime scene? I don't have that evidence. I know it seems scummy, but I continuously have ignorance of what happened last week, so that I might be missing something. That's what I'm trying to raise. Of course I have evidence that explains this contradiction. I just have to get it. Smooth, counselor. Flawless, really. I may not have the evidence on hand, Your Honor, but sometimes living in a surveillance police state has its perks. Pardon? Like when you want to surveil police officers. The officer's patrol car, their cell phones, traffic cameras, and optics data. I can request any of it. Hell. Your Honor, I formally subpoena all of it. What? What? Can she do that? I'm not sure. I'm still learning. Reyes' drunken swipe at my front door reminded me exactly how much power the police have. But it was her dutiful checking in that made me realize just how hard it is to lose a cop in this city. Whatever it takes to answer this question for the court. After Officer Chopin reported that he had heard shots fired at 9:45 p.m., exactly how long did he and his partner do donuts in the parking lot before actually driving off to the scene? Kind of a big ask from the defense, but it's entirely doable. Do the people object? The people, of course, object to any data collection effort that would be a waste of taxpayers' money or a violation of their privacy. So we would prefer that the range of this request be narrowed somewhat. Narrowed perhaps from everything to something. Happy to do that, Your Honor. I promise not to act like a kid in a candy shop when browsing through... If you do this, if you subpoena that data, You'll just see me driving like a lethargic moron. Officer Rogers? He seems different. Hardly recognize him. Agreed, but I recognize his type. Soldier. Your Honor, what the defense is suggesting is largely accurate. Pardon? That's a first. Though there are some corrections I feel I should make at this time. No objections here? Officer Chopin is the one who discovered the frequency when we apprehended Unker Tom. He entered it into both our receiver apps at that time, without my knowledge. It wasn't until the night in question that he chose to inform me of the intel he had obtained, and how he planned on acting on it. At 9:45 p.m., we received a signal. Before I could react, he had put out a notice on the police network that he had heard gunshots. It was at this time that he told me to drive towards Blue Blood territory. As he started to explain to me what he believed we would find, I chose to take a suboptimal route. We spent several minutes in traffic as he berated me for my sense of direction. So you both knew this silent alarm would lead you to some kind of blue blood emergency. But only you recognized that meant you should take your time getting there. Logically, a silent alarm is triggered during a confrontation, not afterwards. I had no desire to walk into the crossfire of an orca gunfight without backup. You could have had backup easily. My partner had no desire to share our intel or how we obtained it. I apologize to the court, Your Honor, for being evasive or misleading during these proceedings. And I intend to take full responsibility for doing so. But I was not eager to admit the role of my own cowardice playing in these events. Nor would I ever want to imply that Officer Chopin was responsible in any way for his own murder. Very warm sentiments from the officer, delivered with a voice as cozy as ice water. So you're telling the court that you and your partner arrived when you expected what you expected to be a bloodbath, and you still shot the lock off the door and started stomping around inside while separated from one another? Respectfully, ma'am, with the route I took and the time it took for us to arrive, we expected to find all targets neutralized. And that expectation was reinforced when we arrived on the street and found the whole vicinity dead quiet. Yet we were still the first on the scene, despite my stalling for time. I think that might have enthused my partner. He was excited, and I let him set the pace. It's my deepest regret that I agreed with his request to split up. First to arrive on the scene, we know that wasn't the case. A blue blood got there well before you and your partner. That's what you were talking about? The witness wasn't present for that individual's testimony. He was merely giving the facts as he knows them. And he can't have known that there was a blue blood in the building. On the contrary, he already testified about encountering them yesterday, as they made a not-so-silent retreat down into the alleyway. That was a blue blood making all that racket? I see. My partner, Chopin, he shouted that there was someone scrambling around down in the alley not long before he was killed. He must have opened the windows on the third floor to check. That doesn't work. The window on the 3rd floor goes down to the other alleyway. Because there were 2 alleyways. There was the one with the dumpster, and there was the one with the burning barrel that had the knife in it. The one that has the knife in it is the one that floor 3 has windows that can open towards. Whereas the other alley is not open to the 3rd floor. This is the reason we did not immediately search the alley with the burning barrel, because we did not realize at the time that it was a part of the crime scene. Whereas when we walked into the building normally, the alleyway with the dumpster was the most prominent one, because it was the approach alley. Unless I'm retarded and there is only one alley. I could be retarded and I'm just not realizing there's 2 alleyways. But the reason I say it is because the orientation of the characters during the dialogue and during the investigations. Because when we approach the building, I believe that it is to the building's... It was to the character's right that the alleyway was relative to the building, to the entrance to the building. But then on the 3rd floor, the windows open up to the left. So my assumption is that there's 2 alleyways. One alleyway where the knife was dumped, the other alleyway where the dumpster was. So there was 2 alleyways. And I think it was the one with the dumpster that had the fire escape, and I believe that was on the... actually, that would be on the 2nd and 3rd floor, but it wouldn't be a window, it'd be a door. So the fire escape floor would not have open windows. So the fact that Rogers was not here for the Blue Blood testimony just got him caught. Uh-oh. That's a new detail, Officer Rogers. Pardon me if I failed to mention it yesterday. It occurs to me you weren't present in the courtroom when this other curious detail was brought to light. The fact that there was another weapon at the scene of the crime. A bloody knife which somehow ended up down in the dumps. Know anything about that? No, ma'am, I do not. Playing dumb? Wrong move. But I do know Cyanus is a bunch of amateurs with conflicted priorities. Explain this to the court, then. Forensic analysis has already shown that this knife was the murder weapon used to stab Miller. Getting a healthy amount of his blood on it in the process. It's also been established that this knife must have been what my client used to cut his own bindings. If you say so. The evidence says so. If the defense isn't interested in asking the witness questions, perhaps they'll answer mine. What does this have to do with Officer Rogers? Everything, of course. Allow me to show you why. The whistle. Bruises and welts otherwise. We know for a fact that Sosuke had to use that knife to cut his bonds, and Detective London has testified that Officer Rogers apprehended Sosuke alone. So why can't the officer who apprehended the man last known using this knife tell us how it ended up in the alley? That is a question well worth asking the witness. I have no idea what you're talking about. When I found your client, he had the Mag US and he had the sword. The sword he had stuck through my partner. This knife you're talking about? Where do you find it? In the trash! Drum. Down in the alley. Well, then some crime scene tech idiot must have thrown it out thinking it was bio-waste. Or some Cyanus lackey tossed it as a prank. I wouldn't know, because I spent hours being debriefed in that room on the 3rd floor while they set up the arcs. I spent all night in a room with my partner's corpse. Never took a trip down to empty the recycling bin. We know the knife was with Sosuke at one point, and we know it ended up down in the alley later. So it stands to reason that someone had to walk it downstairs and out of the building. If Rogers never left that room all night, then someone else must have moved it. Zero points for you. 0 points again? All that processing power and you can't manage to think in 3D? It doesn't matter if Officer Rogers stayed in that room all night, Your Honor. All anyone needed to do to dispose of that knife was to step out onto the fire escape and drop the knife down into the barrel waiting below. No need to leave the 3rd floor. No need to leave the crime scene at all, Officer Rogers. What kind of trick shot bullet are you talking about? Bullshit are you talking about? That is a long drop, Your Honor. A straight drop. Gravity's convenient like that. The target was a small drum in the dark alley. Said drum was burning when the police arrived. The target would have been plainly lit, and I've taken both of your arguments into consideration. After much deliberation, I have come to the conclusion that the proposed method of removing the knife from the 3rd floor is not actually that hard to do, assuming a modicum of hand-eye coordination and a basic understanding of Newtonian physics. Well, obviously, couldn't anyone manage that? Practiced martial artists who are masters of every muscle in their body, individuals like yourself and me, might find it hard to relate, but there are some who would struggle with the task. Yourself and I. Wait. Hand-eye coordination? Eloquently put, Your Honor. So you must agree that someone with hand-eye coordination so bad that they hold the record for worst marksmanship in the entire police department. Someone with such poor aim that they opted to physically assault a target rather than shoot them. Someone like that might find it impossible to pull that off. Check. The reason this is check for us is because Emma now, in order to disprove our argument, has to argue that the witness is incompetent. And that's a lot harder to prove because it's a lot more nebulous and theoretical. Who cares if he has bad hand-eye coordination? Like, dropping something isn't that crazy. It could even just be luck. Like, we currently have no other explanation that has any evidence for how the knife would get there, other than our theory that Rogers dropped it. Nothing else explains this other than that. So all Emma can do is argue that, oh, no, he's too bad at his job. Are you talking about me? She's talking about me, Your Honor. And while I find her tone unflattering, none of what she said is false. Apologies that dropping the knife from the fire escape didn't occur to me as a possibility. It just must be that for me personally, such a method of compromising a crime scene is not only unthinkable, it's impossible. Oh. So now he's okay, so now the witness... Now we know, as a matter of fact, that we have confirmed his guilt, because now he is leaning into this explanation of, yeah, I'm really bad at my job. I totally didn't do this because of how bad I am at the job. And it's like, what? Of all the stupid details to come back and bite me in the ass, the piss-poor aim that London mentioned? Is it possible that Officer Rogers faked his poor aim at the academy? It's easy to not hit your target. But why would he intentionally flunk a shooting test years ago to give him such a strange alibi here today? He didn't flunk his test. He got the very lowest score you could possibly get while still being certified. Good lord, you'd have to be trying to. If his goal was to receive the exact minimum number of points they need to pass, his margin of error would actually be much smaller than anyone simply doing their best. But then, what about when he first saw me? It's true that any other cop who saw me standing over their dead partner would have just unloaded. Instead, he ran up and hit me, if he's not actually that bad of a shot. We already know why. He's working with the Blue Bloods. He knows that Sosuke might be the promised child, the heir to the Blue Blood fortune. So he didn't want to kill him. He would much rather have Sosuke be put in prison, where the police would have the most access to him, which might actually give the police leverage over both the Akarias and the Blue Bloods. So, like, Sosuke is better off alive for any police officers who are working well within this web of corruption. He's better off alive. And all it takes is for the police to know. But if the police have been involved with the Blue Bloods' corruption, it could be just as simple as they just told Rogers. They just pointed at Rogers and was like, here's this thing you need to watch out for. You know, like, that's all they have to do. Instead, he ran up and hit me. If he's not actually that bad of a shot, why am I still alive? That's the story Rogers has been telling so far, that he instinctually didn't bother to fire. His gun wasn't discharged, and Sosuke's got the bruises, so we accepted that line of reasoning. But if I assume he's more dangerous than he's led us to believe, why wouldn't he have just shot Sosuke when he had the chance? He could have told his fellow officers whatever story he liked afterwards, and we wouldn't even be having this trial. I feared for my life, that's all he'd need to say. Under what circumstances would it have been impossible for him to claim that? Your Honor? I'm reminded just now that my client and the witness were in a physical altercation. I apprehended a murder suspect, yes. Surely you aren't suggesting I used unreasonable force? If anything, you used unreasonably little. Not at all, but I imagined things happened fairly fast. Isn't it possible that a knife on Sosuke's person may have been knocked away into a corner during that moment? What are you... It may have. I can't say that I would have necessarily noticed something clattering onto the floor while I was trying to cuff a violent perp. Perhaps, Your Honor, the witness ought to testify about everything he recalls from the moment he confronted my client. Because remember, because he's going with the story of, yeah, I'm just bad at my job, all we have to now do is cross-reference everything he has ever said and be like, oh, okay, what about this thing? Were you bad at your job at this point as well? How can we trust that you were not also bad at your job at this point? Oh, what about that? Oh, hey, what about this? Oh, if you're so good at this part of your job, why were you good at this? But, you know, like, that's all we have to do. So now all we have to do is be like, okay, tell me this exactly what happened at the very moment you cuffed him. And then we just have to cross-reference that with his other stories and see if they line up. And if they don't, well, he's fucked. If they do, then he's very intelligent, you know, or very lucky. We'll see though. Jogging his memory might be the only way we can address these gaps in our knowledge. No objections. Then let's hear it. Good versus evil. Man versus machine. Cop versus robber. I'm not a machine or a robber. Don't worry, Sosuke. If need be, Ad and I would go through a whole trial just to prove that you're a machine. What kind of joke is that? Yoru. Fire escape. Sosuke's med records. When that blue blood fled down the fire escape into the alley, I poked my head out the second floor window. Well, he's just referring to her as a blue blood right now. But then I heard a sickening thump from above, on the third floor where I knew my partner was. Reflexively, I drew my service weapon and rushed up the stairs where I saw the defendant standing over my partner's dead body. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured and the sword was stuck, so before I knew it, I was running at him. He turned to me with dull shock just as I whipped my pistol butt into his forehead. He collapsed after that, and the room was a mess. My blood was pumping. If he had dropped a knife at that time, I wouldn't have noticed it. Why? If he had dropped a knife, I wouldn't have noticed it. Despite his change in posture, he's still telling the same story. Yeah, he hasn't changed his tune, but he is giving more detail than ever before. And one of those details is about to bite him in the ass. Can I please look at my... I poked my head out the second floor. Then I heard a sickening thump. Reflexively, I drew my service weapon and rushed up the stairs, where I saw the defendant standing over my partner's dead body. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured and the sword was stuck. So before I knew it, I was running at him. He turned to me with dull shock, just as I whipped my pistol butt in his forehead. He collapsed after that, and the room was a mess. My blood was pumping. If he had dropped a knife at that time, I wouldn't have noticed it. Let's call him here. Let me see. No, this isn't correct. This is not correct. Really, Counselor? Are you even trying? No need to go that far. Yeah, that was uncalled for. I'm the one who doles out all the burns. Overruled. Oh boy, I can only make 6 more mistakes. That was sloppy. I need to point out the contradiction between Roger's account and what the evidence shows us. Shut the fuck up, Microsoft To Do. Yoru. Fire escape. Sosuke's med records. Can I please read these things? I would like to do that. So, Yoru. It's gonna be near the fucking bottom. Sosuke's sword. Okay. Blade weapon found at the scene of the crime, impaled into the torso of victim Tariq Chopin. The steel is chipped at several points, especially the tip, identified by Makoto as Sosuke's personal sword, Yoru. Taken, along with Sosuke, down the lower wards following an ambush on Makoto. Fingerprints on the handle match the right hand of Sosuke Ikaria. No other prints found. Blood residue at various points of the blade matched DNA of Chopin, Miller, and Trey. Another murder weapon I had to wipe prints off before taking my leave. It was indulgent, trying to take Trey's head off. Wasn't my only indulgence either. I must have gotten Miller's blood on the blade's tip. Fire escape. The fire escape connected to the room where the crime took place. Rusty and poorly maintained, it's missing the ladder that would normally let you climb up from the street. So one could only freely move back and forth between the third floor room where the bodies were found and the second floor room beneath it. So one could only freely move back and forth. So it's and then Sosuke's medical records. CKER was apprehended at the scene of the crime and placed in a medical transport. Injuries known at the time, blood from various sources across the interior, front of the body. Numerous bones in left hand broken as if from impacting a hard surface. Slight laceration found in left hand. Internal bleeding through the torso. Bruising and rope burns on both wrists, as if bound. Numerous bruises on the anterior side of the body. Other blood across top of feet and pant legs. Largest wound found on the crown of the skull. Back of the head near the top. Time of booking, numerous additional injuries were noticed, including bruised left eye, bruised left lip, broken nose, boxed left ear, blunt trauma to anterior front. The front side of his... Oh, wait, no, he did mention that Sosuke turned. When or where these additional injuries were sustained is not noted. Poked my head out the second floor window. Is there a second floor window? Then I heard a sickening thump. Reflexively, I drew my service weapon and rushed up the stairs, where I saw the defendant standing over my partner's dead body. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured, and the sword was stuck, so before I knew it, I was running at him. He turned to me with dull shock, just as I whipped my pistol into his forehead. He collapsed after that, and the room was a mess. My blood was pumping. There, you did more than just hit him once. What? Really, counselor? Are you even trying? No need to go that far. Yeah, that was uncalled for. I'm the one. Yeah. That was sloppy. I need to point out the contradiction between Roger's account and what the evidence shows us. I thought the evidence there was that he had to have hit Sosuke much harder. Then I heard a sickening thump from above on the third floor. If he had dropped a knife at that time, I wouldn't have noticed it. I feel like that's just bullshit. I poked my head out the second floor window. Is that possible? Hold on, I need to go and read the fire escape again. It's missing the ladder that would normally let you climb up from the street. Poked his head out the fire escape window. Poked my head out the second floor window. I guess that may... whatever. But then I heard a sickening thump from above on the third floor where I knew my partner was. Reflexively, I drew my service weapon and rushed up the stairs. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured and the sword was stuck, so before I knew it, I was running at him. He turned to me with dull shock, just as I whipped my butt onto his forehead. He collapsed after that, and the room was a mess. My blood was pumping. If he had dropped a knife at that time, I wouldn't have noticed it. I'll try this again. I'll try this. No. That's what I figured. Yep. I might, if I get close to, like, losing the game, I'll probably save scum. You know, not to be mean. Wait! We know that the knife was the murder weapon against Tariq Chopin. Don't we? Or is that in contention still? Sickening thump from above. Defendant standing over the dead body. What? Shocked, but he was clearly injured. The sword was stuck. Is it here? No? It's probably not. I am losing badly. And I heard a sickening thump. I wasn't shocked, but he was clearly injured and the sword was stuck. He turned to me with dull shock as I whipped my pistol butt. He collapsed after that. I seriously don't know what the fuck the solution is. I don't even know what to guess. Like, I don't even know what to guess. Oh, and the sword. Okay, this is a hint. Okay, so at the very least, this is telling us what we need to be paying attention to in his sentences. He collapsed after that. If he had dropped a knife at that time, I wouldn't have noticed it. Despite his change, I already tried calling him on this. Second floor window. But then I heard a sickening thump from above on the third floor where I knew my partner was. Looks like I drew my service weapon and rushed up the stairs where I saw the defendant standing over my partner's dead body. Clearly injured and the sword was stuck. Maybe it's this. My reasoning was that the wound was jostled a bunch. So maybe it wasn't stuck. Oh, spacebar can also call. Okay, so I can hover my mouse over this. On the 3rd floor where I knew my partner was. I don't know how that doesn't match what we know. Reflexively, I drew my service whip, rushed up the stairs where I saw the defendant standing over my partner's dead body. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured and the sword was stuck. Oh. Spacebar isn't calling. It says down here that space can call. Collapsed after that. I feel like let's try this. I don't know if I've tried this yet. Okay. Okay. All right. I know it's save scummy, but I'm not going that shit with. I have a feeling I'm going to be annoyed either at the game or at myself. Because this is either going to be something that's in plain sight, or it's going to be something that's bullshit that the game should never have expected me to call him on. Did you know he was up there? Of course he did. Why would he not know that? Saw the defendant standing over the dead body. The sword was stuck. That doesn't contradict anything we know. He turned to me, Dolshank whipped my pistol butt into his forehead. I don't know how that contradicts anything. How would that contradict anything? He collapsed after that. If he had dropped a knife, I wouldn't have noticed it. I know this is annoying as piss for all of you, but I'm gonna go look up the solution. Either I'm gonna be angry at myself or I'm gonna be angry with the game. Okay, let's take a look here. What? Okay. What? But I did do that! I thought I did that! Didn't I try that? I tried this. Did I try it on like the wrong statement? I guess I tried it on the incorrect statement. Okay, whatever. Whatever, I guess it's my fault. I guess. Like, I tried it already. And I was like, oh, wait, what? Okay, didn't work. So I thought. Sounds very brave, Officer Rogers, but that's physically impossible. How could you have knocked my client out with one strike to the forehead when it was the back of his head that was injured? I thought he also had the front of his head. I thought both the back and the front of his head were injured. Whatever. What are you talking about? Yesterday he had bruises across his entire body. An exaggeration that doesn't hold up to the scrutiny of his actual medical record. Largest wound found on the crown of the head. The crown, as in the top of the back of the head. The butt of a pistol leaves a surprisingly specific impression on the human body, Officer Rogers. I assume Dr. Sato is still in the building. Perhaps we should call her back and have her examine my client on the stand? Sosuke, you'll have to remove your shirt. To get my head checked? That would be a waste of time, Your Honor. Chancellor Morgan has taken advantage of some rather vague wording in the medical record to make her argument. Largest wound. But the fact is, the defendant was covered in various bruises all over his body when he was taken into custody, including on the forehead front of his skull. She's not wrong. I still remember every ache. It's entirely possible that when Officer Rogers struck the defendant on the forehead, the blow was glancing, but still hard enough to knock the defendant backwards. And he had fallen backwards hard. He very easily could have sustained a large wound to the crown of his head at the moment he hit the ground. Respectfully, Your Honor, that's ultimately not something either the people nor the defense are experts on. But even if we were, neither of us could examine wounds that are no longer visible. Sosuke's injuries, they've mostly healed as of this morning. Hope that injection helped you sleep really well last night, Sosuke. Your Honor, as I see it, either we could extend this trial indefinitely, with both the people and the defense flying in X-ray specialists and contusion analysts to argue back and forth about fracture lines, or we could accept the defense more or less took place as the witness described. He hit the defendant on the head, and then the defendant fell backwards onto the floor. If the head wound's open to interpretation, then... Oh my god. I don't, like, after that last one that I just fucked up, like, I'm just doubting my reasoning abilities. Even though it was more like I just barely got it wrong, but otherwise got it right. Doesn't support Roger's story. Medical data could support Roger's story. I saved, so whatever. Forget expert witnesses. Let's all just look at the medical data with our own two peepers. Peepers? Officer Rogers claims that Sosuke was hit on the forehead and fell backwards. But what would if he had fallen onto? In that room? Probably blood and guts! Yuck! You're exactly right. All kinds of firsts happening in the courtroom today. He would have gotten blood all across his back. But that's not how he looked when he was arrested. The medical report clearly states that he had blood on the front of his body, telling us that Sosuke could have only fallen forward. And what of it? Maybe he did! Maybe he turned his head while trying to dodge. Things happened fast. Don't try to bullshit a bullshitter. Fast enough that you may have, in fact, actually struck my client from behind? Yeah, maybe. Took him by surprise when he was no threat to you? What? No. Easy target to knock out at that point. Makes sense why you wouldn't use lethal force in that scenario. No, he was... The guy's got nearly a full head on me. True. I don't deny it. Which makes it highly unlikely the witness could have simply hit him on the crown. If things happened as you say and he had the element of surprise, he would have simply aimed for the easiest target possible, the one easiest to reach, the center or bottom of the skull. Not quite. Excuse me? I never said that my client was standing up when this happened. You mean he was asleep? No. Considering that he was struck on the crown of his head, it's obvious at the time CKER was... not still bound, I don't think. Was he on the ground? Bent over? My client must have been bent over. He was bent over when the witness came from behind and... Adonai. What? Why are you interrupting me now? Because I thought you would want to know you were about to phrase things in a way that would sound very silly. What are you talking about? Sarah's right, Morgan. You should let her take this one. What? It was when Sosuke bent over to pick up Yoru. That's when Officer Rogers struck Sosuke on his crown. As I've said, the one thing I do remember besides walking out there was picking up my sword. Picking it up off the ground. Having your android argue the weaker points for you now, Counselor. Not exactly the bravest tactic. Tactics are for freshening your breath. What can you claim is weak about the argument? Positioning. If your client really had walked out of that holding room and was then immediately hit from behind, where could his assailants have possibly been standing? Oh boy. Sosuke had to get out of his bindings first and then push open the door. And he wouldn't have been concerned with keeping quiet as he went. Came out of there, over there. There would have been plenty of time for someone to hear him rummaging around in there. There would have been plenty of time for someone to hear him rummaging around in there. You know, I just realized one weak part of the story. How did Morgan not get any blood on her? Like on her shoes, on her hands, on her coat. How did she get literally no blood on her? Especially when she smashed Trey's skull to a pulp. Don't you think like his blood and brain matter would have gotten all over tons of parts of her body? Hands, arms, wrists, feet, ankles, knees, even. I'm just thinking of like the type of motion she would be doing when swinging a baseball bat to smash somebody's skull open like a pumpkin. Like surely she should have gotten a bunch of fucking gore on her. So like, or maybe I'm I don't know, maybe I'm dumb and I'm not remembering that she did do something that protected her against that, or maybe it literally is just that she's that good. She's killed so many people so many times that she knows how to not leave a single trace. Not just fingerprints on stuff, or DNA on, or not DNA, but also like gore on getting on her, I guess. I don't know. Okay, but let's get back to this part. There would have been plenty of time for someone to hear him rummaging around in there. and figure out where they could hide. In the corner of the room, here. That doesn't work. If that was the case, your client would have fallen face first here. But instead, he was apprehended here in the center of the room. Hey, makes sense to me. Looks like he dropped like a sack of potatoes by the door. Sure. But then he was dragged to the center of the room. Would explain the streaks of blood we can see were discovered on the floor. So those weren't left by him gliding his feet in order to move silently? I was hoping to learn that technique. Your Honor, I fear the defense may not realize the weight of the implication that her statement carries. If, as she claims, Sosuke Ikaria was knocked unconscious by Officer Rogers the moment he walked out into the room, then my client never had any opportunity to stab Tariq Chopin in the back. And the only remaining individual who could possibly have killed him would be me. Ooh. Yes. Any thoughts on that, officer? There's one thought that's been frustrating me for some time, actually. One I expected the prosecutor to voice, but perhaps I misjudged her. You what? None of what you're saying makes any sense. You say I hid in the corner to surprise Sosuke? And that I then, what? Snuck up on Chopin? How could I do any of that if I was downstairs at the time Chopin was killed? At the time Sosuke killed him. It's not that the thought hadn't occurred to Emma, you idiot. It's that once I address this point, your entire testimony falls apart, and the truth of the case becomes crystal clear. There's no misunderstanding on my part, and I suspect none on the part of the people either. Because the truth is, when you and your partner arrived, you must have immediately KO'd Chopin? Fallen behind. Oh, or he could have taken the lead. Yeah, like, that could... Oh, yeah, he could have just... Right? Like, we don't have any evidence that he was down there, other than his own testimony, so if he's lying, then he could have just taken the lead the whole time. You were the one who took point, not your partner. Excuse me? Chopin shot open the lock, sure, I believe that. He was the one all gung-ho about coming there anyway. But after entering, you went ahead of him while he covered you. What? You already told us you wanted to stall, wait for backup. If Chopin charged forward, you couldn't slow him down. But if you went first, you could go as slowly as you liked, and Chopin would be forced to match your pace. You were the one who cleared the room and shouted down that everyone was dead. I told you, I testified! So did your blue blood tail. Testified all about how you and your partner separated on the second floor. Objection, mischaracterization of testimony. The witness the defense is referring to did encounter two officers, but the witness never identified either of them. The Blue Blood didn't need to. All they were waiting to hear was whether any Blue Bloods were alive. So, after Rogers shouted down to Chopin that everyone was dead, they bolted out the second floor window. And when Chopin shouted that someone was in the alley, Officer Rogers opened the windows behind Creek's body to try and spot the runner. Then he ran down the fire escape to try and follow them, only to give up when he saw there was no ladder to get down with. It's entirely possible that Chopin yelled that someone was in the alley from the third floor. The scene of the crime is soundproof, remember? No one in that room would notice a commotion in the alley unless they'd already opened the windows to check it. So since Chopin yelled about it, he had to have been the officer who stayed on the second floor. That's right. Because otherwise he wouldn't have heard. Oh, wow. This blue blood rat of yours just misheard. Or they're lying. There's no proof for any of this. Yes, there is, officer. I stabbed Miller in the throat with it. Oh, God. There's nothing that can prove any of this. So we basically just have to prove that... Oh, okay, so what he asserted is that the blue blood is lying. So all we have to do is prove that she wasn't lying, and that would be the dumpster. The dumpster from the alleyway. Yes, right. Very creative, counselor. You may have a promising secondary career in children's literature after you're disbarred. At least there's a silver line. Is the knife. The knife. God, I'm so bad at this game. The receiver. At least say something, damn it. Is it? The scrap found by the windowsill. But it's not just any scrap of paper. It matches the red ink documents that were found where the pod died. It happens to have a partial boot print on it. Okay, whatever. So the scrap of paper proves that she was on the second floor, which means that would corroborate the series of events. All right. God, I'm so bad. But whatever. It happens to have a boot print on it, proving that someone stomped from the crime scene down the fire escape and into the second floor. That doesn't prove anything. Your own client could have left that boot print. My client was arrested barefoot, remember? You did the arresting. Then maybe Chopin. If Chopin was the one who brought the scrap down from the third floor, that would put him behind you. Meaning you could have walked in on him being attacked by Sasuke. God! Counselor! Even if we accept that Rogers was on the third floor and then moved down to the second, the sequence you're describing ends with both officers reuniting on the second floor. With neither of them dead. But obviously Chopin did proceed to the third floor because that's where he was killed. So now we're back where we started. No, we're not. Rogers killed him. Back where we started? You're forgetting one key detail in this new sequence of events at the time of the officers reunited on the second floor. My client was already unconscious. Yeah, if he was dragged. If he was in fact dragged, then yeah. Which means that Rogers may have not been hiding to ambush Sasuke. He might have been hiding to ambush Chopin. Meaning the only person who had a chance to kill Officer Chopin was, in fact... None of this shit matters! This lawyer's trying to accuse me of killing my partner? That doesn't make any goddamn sense! Why would I do something like that? Depends. What? Depends where you live. Not uptown, I assume. What's it to you? Single bedroom? Yeah, whatever. Not great. Excuse me? And having to ride around all day with some insufferable, spoiled, rich stick in the mud? Knowing the whole time that your job, your whole goddamn police department was all just a bullet point on his resume? Counsel is badgering the witness in lieu of making an actual argument. Apologies, Your Honor. I'll state the motive plainly. Prop 492 was corrupt. Blue Bloods and worse would profit off it at the city's expense. But it would also bring economic relief and badly needed repairs to the lower wards. It might also stop the canopy from, just falling down and crushing everyone who lives there. But a climber, like Chopin, wouldn't care about any of that. Every photo I've seen of this guy, he's had a big, stern frown. But I'll bet he was grinning ear to ear when he found that red ink. Must have made you sick to your stomach. So you killed him, and then you bled him like a pig to try and destroy the documents he'd have plastered all over town. You're crazy! That's not possible! Do the people have anything to add? Emma hates losing, but she's not stupid. She must be getting sick of having to cover for this. Oh. Officer Rogers, you were the one who entered the 3rd floor first, weren't you? What is she doing? Yes. How long were you there before your partner alerted you to someone escaping through the alley? More than 2 minutes, less than 3. You had a chance to start looking the room over? Yes. And did you see anything as politically explosive as what the defense has described? No, nothing of the sort. Your Honor, the witness is blatantly lying. We know the documents were there, and we know Chopin found them because they were found underneath his corpse. And it is the defense's theory that he was killed because of those documents, because he would have tried to make them public, essentially? Yes. That's the defense's proposed motive for this man to kill his partner? Yes? I see. But why would he be prepared to kill his partner for reading documents left out on a desk, when he had over 2 minutes to simply get rid of them beforehand? Actually, yeah, that's true. He could have just destroyed the documents. Yeah. That is good. Ooh. A damn good question, Your Honor. Do we have an answer for it? I'm getting there. I'll get there. I'm close. His layers are falling off. This is a cold guy, cold enough to walk into that room, knock out Sosuke, and start calmly looking around. So is he lying? Did he actually see those papers? No. Emma's right. If the papers were in plain view, he'd have just tucked them into his jacket. Which means the motive is not Prop 92. The motive is that Rogers is a blue blood. He knows that Sosuke is the promised child. He wanted to protect Sosuke and also take him into custody so that the police and the Blue Bloods would have the most power over what happens to him, rather than the Akadias. That's what I think happens. I think that this is Rogers being in direct league with the Blue Bloods. That's what I think is happening. And that's why he killed Chopin. Because Chopin was a straight shooter who was, using all of this situation just to climb. Meanwhile, Rogers is this cop who's struggling so much he has to work with the Blue Bloods for extra money, to the point of such desperation that he's willing to kill people. So of course he would be willing to kill some spoiled rich brat kid who's going to ruin a plan that the Blue Bloods have. And at the same time, Sosuke Ikaria is just on the scene. Like, what an opportunity, to kill Chopin, to stop him from being a problem, and to protect Sosuke. By being the one who apprehends Sosuke and put him in prison where the police will control him. If the papers were in plain view, he'd have just tucked them into his jacket. If the papers were in plain view. Were they? I don't remember. Where the hell did I put them if not on the desk? I remember taking them out of Creek's safe and thinking they were nothing important, so I just... Okay. That's probably how one of the pages got left where it could stick to the bottom of Roger's boot. But before I left, I reorganized things, tried to make it seem like I was never there. So I stacked things neatly. Yoo-hoo! Counselor! Any cuckoos in or around the nest? Pardon me, Your Honor, I was simply overthinking, to be honest. Officer Rogers didn't dispose of the red ink when he had the chance because he didn't notice the red ink. It's that simple. Simple answer to a simple question that simply doesn't measure up. If Officer Rogers didn't notice the red ink dots in the 2 minutes he had at the scene, how did his partner discover them so quickly? Neither of them were looking for illicit government documents at the site of a gang shooting. Neither of them would want to start disturbing a crime scene when there were bodies and blood all around them. Correct. Rationally, neither officer would want to start making a mess of the scene. Something must have caught Officer Chopin's eye. Very bad luck on his part, as it turns out. You've got to be... What the hell are you talking about? What could it have been? Sounds like a tough question to answer, but there aren't as many possibilities to sift through as you'd think, Your Honor. Because it would have to do something with... Because it would have to have to be something that caught Officer Chopin's eye, yet not that of his partner. In other words, something at the scene that Officer Rogers wouldn't recognize. Your Honor, this is pointless. If the officers knew this was the site of orca violence from the silent alarm, and there was blood and corpses all over the damn place, and if the red ink docks were not in plain sight amidst all that carnage, what could possibly have drawn Officer Chopin's attention to them? I need to retrace Chopin's steps specifically. Was there anything in the evidence record that he left a trace on? I think the answer is the knife? Was there anything in the evidence record that he left a trace on? The knife, right? Playing loudly at crime scene. Wiped no, yes or no. What is that? You think the knife caught Chopin's eye? Or his nose? It is charred pretty badly. It wasn't burned at all until after the crimes took place. Right, you are. And wrong you remain. Okay, so it wasn't the knife that drew Chopin's attention. What did? The sword, right? Yeah. You're saying that the katana drew Chopin's attention. Isn't that perfectly natural? All men think katanas are cool. That may be true. It is? But it wouldn't explain how Chopin discovered red ink documents his partner missed. Did that somehow almost work? No. What actually drew Chopin's attention when he got to that room was... When Rogers first entered the crime scene, he must have seen Creek's datapad resting on top of some papers. You think the red ink documents were beneath the datapad at the time? That might explain why Rogers didn't notice them, but that's only half an answer. Then how's this? It wasn't the datapad that drew Chopin's attention, Your Honor. It was the dark card that was stuck inside of it. The dark card? Seems like a little more than a fancy credit card to you or I. But if you're rich enough, it's an unmistakable sign of powerful forces at play. Exactly the kind of thing that would put a gleam in the eyes of the politically ambitious Officer Chopin. Right up until the moment he saw the bombshell hidden underneath the datapad. Your Honor, this speculation... Chopin's prints were discovered on the datapad. Your Honor, we know he must have picked it up. And that datapad was found by police on the desk, so we know he must have put it down. I'm merely proposing that he didn't put it back down in the exact same spot. Just because this dark card happened... Hey, seriously, what the hell have you two been talking about? What the shit is a dark card? Cryptographically anonymous wallet card that rich people use to buy illegal drugs and gifts for their mistresses. Not common knowledge, unless you ran in circles as high up as the city council. Oh. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know that. Never heard of that. Assumed you were being literal. It is a dark card. Yeah, to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. Chopin going around picking up whatever he wanted at a crime scene without even radioing in first? Sounds about right. Bare hands, mouth breathing. Guy was big on following rules, just wasn't that good at remembering any of them. Not me, though. I remember every rule. Follow them, too. Partner breaks a body cam. I request a new one. Let him use mine. Stop him from getting sued by the next punk he bumps into. It was a real risk for him. He had money. People would sue him if they could. No one would try to sue Huey Rogers. Only thing the judge could award them with would be my own goddamn debts. I don't think I'm bad with money, just bad with debt. I never seem to get rid of the stuff. Oh, he's crashing out. But even I'm not so stupid that I wouldn't wear gloves at a goddamn crime scene. You mean... Obviously, counselor. From the minute we pulled up to that building until I was relieved from duty and sent home to the next morning, I was wearing gloves. 3 stories in an alleyway, and I can swear on my partner's graves I didn't contaminate 1 millimeter of it. Didn't put my greasy fingertips on the windows, the doors, the murder weapons. You'd never know I was ever there. So you can say I did this or claim I did that. But the city's only ever gonna hear that some Ikarian bastard killed a bunch of blue blood punks. And that Tariq Chopin died a hero trying to save the day. Right. Adonai, is that true? Is that possible? After all this, is it possible that... But the jury, surely they can see. The jury will see what the adjutant decides they need to see in order to properly render their verdict. If the adjutant comes to the conclusion that a witness or a line of questioning would only serve to confuse the jury... Aidi, Your Honor, the jury... Give me a sec to think here, girl. I'm trying to build consensus, and basically everyone's mad. So maybe the adjutant rules in our favor, and maybe the jury sees things our way. But there are no guarantees. After all that, it just comes down to a gamble. Always does. Yeah. But you still get a chance to sculpt your hand. And I can do a lot better than this pile of shit. Interesting self-righteousness when she is literally a serial killer. Maybe she is insulted at the mediocrity at which Rogers has killed people. Just have to take my licks first. Your Honor, I disagree. About what, exactly? About all of it. About everything. Look, we know someone moved from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor via the fire escape because of that scrap of paper. Which would have put them in the perfect position to walk up behind Chopin. And we know Chopin picked up the datapad because his fingerprints are on it. So we can reason Chopin was investigating the desk before he died. And of course we know he died reading the Reddick documents because, duh, his body was found collapsed on top of them. Put that all together and nothing. You still have nothing. Nothing except circumstantial evidence trying this witness to a theoretical sequence of events. Emma, did you get hit in the head too? What? We have Officer Rogers' fingerprints on the murder weapon. What? They'll never go all in unless they think your hand is crap. Put on a show. Roger? No! No! His prints were on the pistol he used to bludgeon my client, of course. What? What are you... No, they aren't. As he said, he was wearing gloves. Also, that gun was never fired. What are you talking about? Now that you mentioned it, yeah, shoot, did I get my notes mixed up? That's right, the bat. Did you think we wouldn't notice you left your fingerprints on it just because it was broken into splinters? The baseball bat used on Trey, forensics failed to pull a single print from that. Is that your idea of a joke? Geez, take it easy, I misspoke a little. Also, I don't have my reading glasses. What? The mag US that was used to kill tanks and creep. Pretty stupid to forget to wipe your prints off a piece that gaudy, don't you think? Counselor, what is this? Are you throwing a tantrum? Making a mockery of the courtroom. The only prints in that gun belong to CKER. Oh, sorry. Guess I was thinking of another case. Is there perhaps a gas leak on the other side of the courtroom? The blade. Well, don't I feel stupid. What I've been trying to say is that Officer Rogers failed to notice that he left his fingerprints on the most important weapon of all. The very blade that he took his partner's life. Enough of this embarrassment! What the hell's wrong with you? I knew a mob lawyer would be corrupt and vile, but how can you be such a stupid bimbo? Do you think we're all idiots? My fingerprints aren't on the goddamn knife, and you know it! Have we even mentioned the knife to him? This means he knew about the... Well, we did just mention the knife. My mistake. I can see here that, yes, I was misreading the fine details, and it does appear that your fingerprints are not on that knife. Sorry. You... Oh, dear. What? What? What is it? Oh, I guess we're all just wondering. How long have you known that it was this knife that was used to kill your partner? What? Confused? So were these two. Because like you, neither of them were in the courtroom when Dr. Sato updated her autopsy report. So I knew that Chopin was killed with a knife. And the people knew that Chopin was killed with a knife. But how did you know that? There must have been 50 cops in here when that doctor... Far fewer than 50, actually. More like 0. We had already emptied the courtroom by then, a courtesy we extended to a blue blood witness. You... For some blue blood rat, you crazy harpy! Trying to trick me at the last second? You think I walked up here unprepared? No, of course not. She, right there, Rockford, the prosecutor, before I took a stand, she told me all about the knife. Ah, so that's your plan. Right, Rockford, before I came out here, didn't you? It's always great to reveal a full house and rake in the pot. It's even better to reveal a handful of shit you bluffed your way to victory with. So we made ourselves look really stupid, then we dropped something that was extremely intelligent, and it caught everyone off guard and made the officer just kind of like, and he misspoke as a result. Because here's the problem. Here's the problem, Mr. Officer. The prosecutor is not a defense attorney. They are not obligated, nay, they are required to not cooperate with lies. You're fucked, buddy. Say something already. Just say it. But every now and then, a different kind of victory comes along, where you just get to sit back and watch someone else self-destruct, because they completely misread the dealer. Say it! Say that you... Shut up! What? Just shut up! Is that so hard? Are my instructions unclear? You need me to salute you first? Stop talking! You are completely, utterly, 100% guilty! Why the hell would I perjure myself to help you? But, hey, start counting. Because from this second on, every word that comes out of your mouth adds directly to the number of years you're going to rot in jail. Unless those words are your confession. He's the Hound of Ikaria! He murders for the mob! We could put him away! They don't want to put him away! Not for your crime. Not for murdering the son of 2 city councilmen. Have you lost your goddamn mind? But he's a murderer. Well, not all murderers are created equally. Well, not all murderers are hunted equally. Neobility assassinating each other? Let it ride. Keeps them divided. Orcas fighting in the lower wards? Let them sort it out. Keeps their numbers down. A monster shoots 6 women in the heart and leaves no evidence behind? Call us back when he kills someone important. Strange. Once she's properly infuriated, there's usually no stopping her. Well, if she's not going to twist the knife herself, I shouldn't let it go to waste. Your Honor, if the witness is having trouble choosing a place to start for his confession, perhaps I might help by laying out the details for him. You sadistic bitch! He was counting on Emma to step in, and now he's sliding down the rocky face of despair. Fingernails split and bloody as he attempts in vain to slow the descent. Not very dignified, so I won't leave him hanging. I'll be happy to speed him along. In summary, a week ago, you acquired a blue blood distress signal when you arrested Tanks, but your partner insisted on letting him go and keeping the code to yourself. So the night of the murder, when the alarm went out, he jumped at the chance to be the first unit on the scene at what could be a gang shootout. You did all you could to stall, but your partner pressed on, and even shot open the door in his hurry to get into the locked building. You made up an excuse to keep him on the 2nd floor and proceeded to the 3rd on your own, relieved that everyone was already dead, and puzzled by the delirious Sosuke who you knocked out with 1 blow to the back of the head. But by calling down to your partner to convince him you were already too late, you alerted an orca hiding downstairs, and when they fled out the window and down into the alley, you opened the windows at the crime scene to give chase. While you were scanning the alley from the 2nd floor fire escape, your partner proceeded upstairs, where he was just as stunned as you were, but intrigued by the presence of a dark card you'd never recognize. He knew that it pointed towards the involvement of powerful parties. It was simply bad luck that he found the red ink before you. But he must have felt like he'd won the lottery. He was the one man in the city who'd benefit the most from exposing the corruption it hinted at. He must have been salivating at the opportunity right in front of you, standing in the blood without a second thought. You had taken the knife from Sosuke, hadn't even thought about it up until that point. You knew once the rest of the force arrived, there'd be no stopping the red ink from going on the record. You had one chance to blot it out for good. That's all a lie, just smoke and mirrors, tricks and guesswork. The Hound of Ikaria is standing right there next to you. The Blue Bloods themselves even tried to kill him, right in front of us all. No, they didn't. Excuse me? I have it on very good authority that the Blue Bloods wouldn't want my client assassinated. Oh, I'm sure. So considering where the shooter was and the direction he was aiming, the only person he could have been aiming at would be, well... you! What the hell are you talking about? Seems like the old guard wanted to make sure there'd be a swift punishment for letting Prop 492 blow up. So you can keep protesting your innocence if you want. It might work out, and you might be able to avoid the next Blue Blood to come after you, and the next after that. You might survive just long enough to end up the only casualty in a tragically unavoidable case of friendly fire. Your Blues coming after you from above and below. Who gets there first is a coin toss, so tell me, you feeling lucky? Well... You! Any questions? You and this DA, you're... Officer? You're both. You're all out of your damn minds! Bold. Fucking crybaby bitch. Fucking I still think that there might be a chance that he is actually working with the Blue Bloods. He's working with the faction of the Blue Bloods that would want the documents to be destroyed. because I believe that it's an old guard desire. No. It is a desire of the young bloods. So the young bloods want the proposition to go through. But if him and Chopin unveil it, then that means the young bloods will try to kill him every single day. So he had to kill Chopin to protect himself, at the very least, from one of the two factions of the Blue Bloods. So he chose the only option is to wipe everything of all trace, which is destroy the documents and kill Chopin, because Chopin would, if Rogers destroyed only the documents, Chopin would just tell everybody. So in order to make the entire thing a neutral event, he had to both destroy the documents and kill Chopin. In order for it to be a new event, a clean event, a neutral event that would not result in him getting targeted by any of the orcas or the assassins. And you want to know what's funny? The police are like a middle class job for the most part. So I think it's kind of funny because the Hound of Icaria, his targets, like the police would number among his targets in terms of their relative involvement in the corruption and their social standing in society. So, like, Rogers did all this, and he had the chance to get rid of an assassin that, has almost certainly killed other officers just as a part of the job. Forgot what day it is. I see I got it the best time. You missed the part where I fucking had to Google an answer for one of the puzzles. And then it turned out I was right the whole time. I just was off by one degree. It's like, are you fucking serious? I had to reload to get my chips back. But yeah, you caught us at the moment where we found the actual killer of Tariq Chopin, which is his partner here. Do you work for the Blue Bloods? Never thought of it that way. Even back when I was a kid, I thought they were just another institution. Like a neighborhood watch. People looking out for each other. Everyone's parents off working or enlisted. In jail for civil disobedience. Whole neighborhoods that cops, medics, goddamn firemen wouldn't set foot in. Didn't see it as transactional. Thought I was just lending a hand. My blood ain't worth shit. I wasn't useful enough to be a young blood, not good looking enough to be a host. But I kept going to school, they helped me pay for it, and because it was, in fact, transactional, they expected to get something in return. Aha! He's working for one of the Blue Blood factions. Police Academy, their man on the inside. Wasn't as exciting as it sounds. I made sure it wasn't. Test scores sucked. Aptitude sucked. Clumsy and boring. I made sure no one would want to give me anything important to do. Valuable enough that the Blue Bloods wouldn't out me. Not valuable enough that the cops would give me anything worth passing on. The world's worst double agent. So bad at his job he'd never be expected to double-cross anyone. Imagine the look on my face when my reputation for nothingness gets me paired up with the worst babysitting job on the force. Tariq Chopin. We were perfectly matched in a way. I didn't want to be near nothing, and nobody wanted to let him near anything. Nothing dangerous enough to get him hurt, nothing real enough that he'd go blabbing to his dads. We went around to schools. Those are the jobs we'd get. Building security. Morning assemblies, telling the kids what cops do. Here's how to call for help. We were a goddamn joke. That's not a joke. That's actually very, very, very noble and important. And even if Tariq Chopin was like an ambitious dickhead, doing the right thing for the wrong reason is still doing the right thing. 10 out of 10 times, I will always prefer that a person do the right thing for the wrong reason than a person doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Like, I can appreciate the sentiment of principle, but when your principle is no longer interested in the moral agency of the outcome, then you need to re-examine your principle. There are worse things to be. You think I don't know that? You think I gave a shit that kids were laughing at us back in the class? That teens were throwing soda cans at our car? Good for them. At least they were having fun. Tariq was never having fun. He was just burning inside. Humiliation and bile. A stomach full of it. If he hadn't found the code on tanks that day, I don't know. Guy would have either put in his 2 weeks' notice or just drawn his gun and walked into the nearest Orca mansion. So when you two arrived at the building, happened like the defense attorney said. I told Chopin some bullshit about smelling contraband on the second floor. He started poking around. And I went straight up to the third floor because that's where the bosses would hang out back when I was a kid, where they'd give us spare change to buy their groceries and pick up their laundry. Never met this creek or his pod in my life until we stopped Ankur Tan. Different gens. And I'd never seen anything like the bloodbath in that room. All 4 of the pod were dead when I got there. Believe me, don't believe me, I ain't no hound of Ikaria, and I don't even think he could have done that either. Considering how he stumbled out of that water closet like a bloody water balloon. I did whack him on the back of the head, but my hand to God, I'm not convinced it did anything. Face down and the blood out like that. Could have had him woke up with a nuke. When the hound dropped, I searched him, I followed protocol, found that knife in his hand. I called down, said everyone was dead, that blue blood bolted. Tariq called after them, and yeah, I opened the window and tried to follow. I guess Tariq didn't know the ladder was out. Figured I would chase him down, because by the time I stepped back inside, he was upstairs. And I walked up those steps expecting him to be puking, crying, shaking, I dunno. Instead, he starts yelling, down, happy, ecstatic. He can't believe this. Scoop of the century. And I realize I know what he's talking about. Your blue blood superiors let you know about Prop 492? Lots of people knew the deal with Prop 492, even non-blooded civvies. Nothing wrong with any of that so long as it stayed a rumor. So long as the state didn't know we knew where the pillars were gonna be built. It was a nice thing, believe it or not. People in the lower wards whispering about big money coming in. A little excitement to look forward to. Tariq was excited, too. All he could see was forward. Barely reading the words in front of his eyes, not giving a shit about anything behind him, not caring about what he was trampling over. I didn't plan on doing anything if that matters. If you care. I was moving slow, but I was trying to hide. After taking it off the hound, I still had that knife. That goddamn knife in my hand. You all seem like educated people, so I take it none of you all believe in evil. We believe in evil down in the lower wards. It's like a fog. Hangs around certain people, places, and it poured off that knife like a water fountain. The devil made you do it? Haven't heard that one in a while. If it wasn't for that dark card being there. You know, Tariq told me once, said he wanted to become a mayor. I did this stupid fake laugh and told him he had my vote. I don't know why I did that. I shouldn't have done that. Laughed at him? Shouldn't have lied to him. And so, Your Honor, the people will be dismissing the charge of homicide in the first degree with prejudice. What does that mean? They can't charge you with Officer Chopin's murder again at a later date just because they found more evidence. And the 4 other charges of second-degree homicide? We will be dismissing the 4 charges of second-degree homicide without prejudice. Why, though? So she's not quite convinced I could have killed Creek's pod. Miller's blood having already been on the knife you used to get free in the first place was pretty huge. Combined with Rogers admitting that you basically stumbled out a walking corpse. But the way the state sees it, their murders aren't any more solved than they were at the beginning of this trial. It's to be expected. Then the jury will be dismissed, this court will be adjourned, and you, Mr. Icaria, are free to go. Everything that's happened to you the last few days, how is that leaving you so shocked? I'm not shocked, I'm just... I'm just grateful, Counselor. You have my... Your Honor, is there perhaps something else you wanted to say? Well, if you insist. I guess for some reason, even though the jury's been dismissed and it's actually their job to do this part and the charges were dropped, I have this strong, overwhelming urge to say, not guilty. No, that needs to be much bigger. Maybe, I cast ye innocent? No, that sounds dumb. Not very long later. State building, floor 48. She's so wife-coded. She's a 9-foot robot that can't walk. She literally sits there as Lady Liberty and then gets turned on for court cases. And not the kind of turned on that you want, that you like. Okay? No, switched on. Fucking wound up like a clock. Sosuke. Awkward. So how do you plan on celebrating? Adonai. We won, in case you two somehow missed it. And won so definitively that the police and even the Blue Bloods can't hold a grudge. Right. My apologies. I'm grateful to you, of course. It's just that I still haven't gotten an answer to the question that's been haunting me. Even more so than whether or not I killed Chopin. Someone slaughtered Creek's entire pod. Then they had my life in the palm of their hand and framed you, Sosuke. I don't think they were doing you any favors. And yet they did. They let me live. It feels strange, owing everything to someone so unknowable. If you get your vending machine wife, I get my JudgeBot 9000 wife. We weren't able to get the, we weren't able to acquire Vending Machine Girl, though, in that game, unfortunately. So I didn't get her, so you don't get JudgeBot wife. We will both suffer. Yeah, it's very fucking funny that Sosuke doesn't even realize. It's like, yeah, Morgan did this to you, and then she helped you not get. You got framed, and then she was almost killed by the mob, and then she was threatened by the mob. Yeah, you're gonna clean up your own mess, or we're gonna kill you. But nobody knows now except for her. Well, you'll have plenty of time to think on it, spending the rest of your life hiding your head in the sand, ignoring the vast riches that sit untapped in a savings account across the sea. Adonai, he's made his stance quite clear. I don't intend to hide, Morgan. The Blue Bloods can try whatever they like. And they can find me standing right where I've always stood, protecting my family. Yeah, but Daisuke doesn't... Daisuke sees you as a tool. Then again, Mireille, his sister, loves him. Like, not like I want to fuck my brother, love him, but she is immensely loyal to Sosuke because she more or less risked her own identity and venture in order, to try and get Morgan and Sosuke to do something that would get him out of trouble. Close, they are Japanese. yeah, they're a Japanese family. The Blue Bloods are also Asian in origin, which is why, I don't know if you guys were here when I said this, but I 1000% believe that this game takes place in San Francisco. Because it has Asian gangs fighting each other. It's directly adjacent to the ocean. It's in the United States, period. The police are incompetent, so it has to be California. The gun laws are unbelievable, so it has to be California. So it has to be in a big city as well. So it would have to be in San Fran. Also, two congressmen that are from this city, of the city council, they're a gay couple, and so California loves that, especially San Francisco. So Asian gangs, gays, bad cops, horrendous gun laws. This has to be San Francisco. It has to be. But I do wonder if this is like a long-standing feud that originates with the Chinese and the Japanese hating each other, and so their mobs out here in the fucking Western world are also still trying to kill each other perpetually, which is kind of funny because Sosuke was born a blue blood. His parents were fucking murdered by his current family, but he's still loyal to them. He doesn't care. I mean, I don't know if he's aware of the possibility that he has been fucking brainwashed, but maybe he also doesn't care that he has been. Seems there's someone who'd like to speak with you about just that. Oh, is that his sister? No, it's Makoto. Sosuke! Young master! Please forgive me, young master. I've failed you repeatedly. I'll accept any punishment. Very well. 108 years of manual labor. Oh. Yeah, that's about as merciful as I expected. At least he picked a good number. 100 and... Of course, young master. You'll need to spend that sentence serving as my head of security, so that I know you're actually doing it. And that means you won't be able to do other jobs anymore. Who's this Hogwarts-looking ass kid? This is the heir to the Ikaria family, which is a family that is a segmented joint operation designed to be a hideout for the Ikaria cartel. That is one of the Asian mafias that came here at some point in history. In the history of the 21st century, because this is 2086. Makoto is the son of Sosuke's sister. So technically, Sosuke is his adopted uncle. But yeah, Makoto is actually a very funny character to me because he is a very well characterized brat. Because he's very smart, because he's very book read, but he's a kid, so he's fucking dumb and doesn't actually understand the greater contexts of all the education he has. So I actually find him entertaining as a result, because the characterization is actually very, very real. It feels very accurate. And also, what he's saying here, you won't be able to do other jobs, that means he's not going to allow Sosuke to be an assassin anymore. Because that's what the Ikarias were using Sosuke for a while. They were using him to be an assassin, to kill middle management people of their enemies in order to intimidate them. Imagine you're an office worker and some fucking Yakuza assassin, like from Warframe, fucking bullet jumps into your office and cleaves your head off to send a message because you're an office worker. Fuck. God damn it. But now Makoto is basically saying, no, you can't fucking do anything else other than be my security detail. Fuck that. But that's nice, because that means Sasuke won't be in as much danger. Average corpus work day. I'm gonna say, honestly, no. Honestly, no. Because remember, when you're on the corpus ships, if you look into the glass floors, you see dozens upon dozens of random corpus workers just sitting in their chairs, like on their computers, and you can't do anything to them because they're innocent people. Sasuke here, on the other hand, his target is those people. He isn't going there to kill the fucking the crewman goons with guns. He's going there to specifically kill those workers because the mafia's fucking evil. Sasuke was directed to do evil. I'm off to sleep. See you next week. You have a good night, man, and thank you for stopping by for as long as you have. Even the ones that the elders ask you to do. Even delivering messages. It's a punishment handed down by the heir to the noble house Ikaria, Sosuke. Who could possibly overrule it? As you say. I'll start right away, if you don't mind. That is probably wise. Grandfather is outside in the motorcade, and he's had nothing but criticisms for the current formation. The chairman is here? He came here? I'm gonna have to bounce soon too, but it's almost wrap up time. Yeah, you've basically seen the. I'll tell you guys next week if there was like a twist, or tomorrow, or yeah, next week if there's like a twist ending that you missed. So don't worry about it. But yeah, thank you for stopping in. I appreciate it. The chairman is here. He came here. Probably just happened to be on his way to the airport. He is, Counselor Morgan, surprisingly astute of you. Though he is leaving quite early if he just wants to get to the airport. None of our private planes are even fueled. It seems to be a universal truth that old people like to get to the airport early. That sounds very wise, Sarah of House Paralegal. Who are you quoting? Then, if you'll excuse me for a moment, Counselor. Yeah, feel free to. Gonna go talk to his sister. His sister is the one who was just like, yeah, Morgan, I want you to get him out of this, period. Because apparently his sister is, apparently, like, they're very close. Not, again, not fucking, but definitely close. Because this lady is like she is a terrifying. She is one of the heads of the family, okay? She can get anybody killed if she wants. Okay? In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of Sasuke's hound missions were, like, from her. Like, requested by her. Though, primarily, he was her bodyguard. Hell, they're not related, right? He's adopted? Yeah. Yeah, they're correct. He was her bodyguard for many years. Then when she was old enough that she didn't need a bodyguard, like a singular bodyguard anymore, he went to the military to get more training, then he came back and they started using him as an assassin. But then he got injured a year ago, so he was reassigned to security detail for Makoto, but then all of this shit happened. Take Sarah with you. Pardon? If you don't let her look at your tattoo now, I'll never hear the end of it. Heh. Yes, well, that's... Right then, I'll, find a corner in which to lift up my shirt. Un instanto. Congratulations, Counselor. You succeeded on all fronts. Thanks. Not satisfied? Makoto seems to be in a good mood. If you ask him for a bonus now... Shouldn't I just negotiate with my employer directly? Which is you. You're the one who hired me, aren't you? At the very least, you're the one who put my name forward to Makoto. It's easy to see, looking back. You're the one who's acted in Sosuke's interest this entire time. Who isn't a child? And what of it? Why me? Why does it matter? Because I value my privacy. I want to know why a woman with your resources would put an ant like me under her magnifying glass. Such cruel metaphors you employ. Someone who values their privacy that much should, in the future, avoid directly confronting the board of multinational corporations. Yeah, you kind of did that in Chapter 1. In Episode 1, Morgan. Like, I know you were defending yourself, but, like, you really put yourself in view because of that case. Noble's board of directors? You were... Not among them myself, but when one woman shifts the opinion of a room that stagnant, even by a millimeter, word gets around. That's right, Morgan. You're involved in this web of corruption. And everybody's already involved in that web of corruption. Police, mafia, the state, corporations. And you're a serial killer. You have to somehow escape all of them. My, you really are a shy little girl. No putting the genie back in the bottle, but I won't recommend you to anyone else if it bothers you that much. Thanks. Though you can be pretty shy yourself, letting Makoto take all the credit? Why the subterfuge? I've already overextended myself in this matter. A woman from my side of the house intruding upon the IFG's business. I don't mind that I'll have to rip out fingernails in front of the elders as recompense, but I thought I might spare myself the additional pinky or so. You're being literal, aren't you? Disobedience always has a cost, especially in old families. Especially for daughters. Rolling out later. You have a good night, man. But not flinching as you pay the toll carries its own kind of power, don't you think? Yeah, saying that you don't care about a consequence immediately gives you an immense amount of power in whatever the scenario is. Like, this is literally, like, one of the roots of all ignorance and evil is people simply not caring about the consequences of what they're doing. Because that gives them agency, that gives them the power. Like, oh, I don't have this limitation that other people have. I objectively can do things other people can't. Huh, you know, like, that's what... So yeah, like, not caring about about a consequence, like, that is its own kind of power. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Maybe I'm just trying to dress up my cowardice as dignity. Disobedience used to come naturally to me. It gets harder the older you get. Harder to believe your independence wasn't just immaturity. That's why I'm glad Makoto's such a good boy. I don't want him to feel any guilt later in life. Yes, Makoto certainly takes his responsibilities seriously. Can't imagine where he gets it from. I was such a hellraiser. He must get it from his father. I suppose so. Oh my fucking god, I was just joking! I was just fucking joking! I was not being serious! When I was suggesting they ain't fucking... That game! That was supposed to be a joke, game! It's an interesting mark below Sosuke's eye. Looks like a mole, but it seems to be hereditary. Does Makoto know Sosuke's his father? Oh my god, telling you guys about this next week is gonna be fucking crazy! Holy shit! Does Sosuke? I would be very disappointed in Sosuke's intelligence if he didn't. That's why Sosuke left the family to join the military, wasn't it? Why he was asked to become the Hound when he came back. Self-imposed exile for interfering in your arranged marriage. Interfering. We were younger then, but we still knew what we were doing. We knew there was no stopping the marriage. If we didn't cover up the pregnancy, others would. Or just eliminate the problem themselves. Sosuke left before the bridal shower, a sudden enlistment, certainly, but I don't blame him for not wanting to be there on guard duty as I married another man. If Makoto is Sosuke's son, though, that means he carries his blood. If he stands to inherit from both his father and mother, his worth... I understand this is going to be hard for you to believe, coming from a woman like me. But Makoto's already worth enough. He has his health, he has his mother, and his father will always be close by. Every moment we've shared as a family is worth its weight in gold. And as you've now seen, when given the opportunity to choose between Makoto and the Blue Blood fortune, Sosuke chose the former. He, you, all of you could have it all. Why don't you want it all? We already have it. I wonder if Daisuke knows. Surely Daisuke has to know, right? Surely Daisuke has to know. I see. You don't understand, do you? I hope you do someday. Let's get back to something I fully understand then. Bargaining. One blood test from Makoto could split your precious house right down the middle. Your husband will be infuriated, assuming he has a pulse, and whatever connections you married him for will burn up in seconds. So unless you guarantee me that I'm free to turn down any job... Don't make unnecessary threats, counselor. It makes you look weak. Take it from someone with experience. You're always free to leave the house. But if you find yourself slinking back, don't be too hard on yourself about it. It's just what the house does. Now, would you excuse me? Sosuke seems to have satisfied your companion's curiosity for the time being, and it's very rare for him to have any time to himself. You don't understand, do you? Morgan doesn't understand how it feels to have enough. That's why she can't stop killing. Because she doesn't feel like she hasn't done it enough. And she doesn't understand why other people stop doing the things that they should want. How could a mobster be happy with just a family? Morgan literally doesn't understand that. Because it seems like an abjugation of self-interest. Counselor Morgan. Emma, what's that look for? So that's 2 wins for me now, isn't it? After Rogers went nuts and perjured himself all over the place, you're calling that shitstorm a win? It definitely wasn't a loss. You're ridiculous. Thanks, by the way, for letting things play out as long as they did. I imagine you wanted to put the brakes on things a number of times back there. But now that it's all out, my client won't be getting knifed by cops or blue bloods. At least not for anything he didn't do. Humph. You think I was happy to let the Hound of Icaria walk out of my courtroom? Your courtroom? I'll have to have a word with the adjutant. Please don't. But yes, I had my doubts. The OC unit has been getting a number of odd reports in the last 24 hours, truth be told. What do you mean? Bursts of anonymous tips about figures in red being spotted around Creek's place before and after the killings. Figures in red? That's right. The rust. Ah, right, the rust. I don't like the timing, but it's not as if the OC can ignore the idea altogether. Someone killed those four, and it wasn't Sosuke or Rogers. If you don't like the rust for it, where's your head at? Whoever killed Creek's pod did it with such unhinged brutality, and yet it was executed with precision so cold-blooded that they managed to virtually erase their presence from the scene afterwards. Yeah. Tanks and Creek were both shot from fairly close range, and near enough to their solar plexuses, I suppose. Bashing Trey's skull in was overkill, yes, but it was the safest way to erase anything his mods may have recorded, and even then it was an afterthought that overcorrection is in the line. And even if it was an afterthought, that overcorrection is in line with perfectionism interrupted by... Bah, forget it. I'm seeing things that aren't there. First sign of obsession. Obsession? I'm jealous. You seem like you never let anything get to you. It's unpleasant, you know, feeling like you're possessed by something or someone. Well, if it was easy to wrest control back, it wouldn't be an obsession. Just puppy love. Oh, that's me. Gotta take this call. See you around, Morgan. Yeah, see you around. Just don't go telling anyone that was a win, or I'll have you arrested for spreading misinformation. Well, we can't have that. Okay, Morgan, I've fulfilled my obligation to Sarah now, so now you can buy me a goddamn drink. Pardon? You can start your 108-year sentence tomorrow. I've got some paperwork we need to go through before then, and I don't want to do it sober. Oh, you're serious? Of course I am. Everyone knows it's tradition for a client to buy their lawyer a drink after beating charges like this. And in this city, they take them to this one special bar, Kintsugi. I've never heard of that tradition. Or that bar. Yes, well, you've lived a very sheltered life under the roof of House Icaria, but I forgive your ignorance. Time for you to put the fat wallet you've been accruing that whole time to good use. I suppose I do owe you a great deal. Very well, but first I must inform Lady Mireille and young master. Go right ahead. Be my guest. What was that about? What was that, Adonai? Did you want to get a look at Sosuke's tattoo as well? I'll take a rain check. Sosuke seems much more animated this afternoon, don't you think? Did you say something to him? No. No. I didn't do anything. This is so fucking wild. I was just joking when I was like, yeah, Mireille she really cares about her brother, but there's no way they're fucking, right? And then it's like, oh, wait. They aren't fucking, but they did at one point. And honestly, it checks out and it makes sense. Because Daisuke wasn't really treating Sosuke like a son. He was treating him like a tool to use and to protect his daughter. So they never really had a traditional sibling relationship. It was always he was subservient to her and her needs. If she's not going to become close to him as a result of him being a brother, then she was going to become close to him for being a protector. So, obviously, that is a thing that would happen. That was very well within the realm of possibility. I just did not fucking see it coming. I thought it was a fucking joke. But then it actually fucking happened. Like, I did not think that the end of this case was going to be that Sosuke gets to live happily ever after with his fucking family. With his son? What? He gets to live with his son. Oh, God, that's pretty incredible. That is so Hopium core. I think the end of the first episode was also pretty Hopium cored, because it was like, yeah, we defended Sarah at risk to ourselves, but we succeeded, and the corpos took the whole ordeal completely seriously, and it was a big shakeup, and it was like, yeah, that's awesome, that's morally good, despite the fact that Morgan is a fucking murderer and a monster. And this situation would not have happened if Morgan hadn't fucking murdered people. I guess so if Morgan hadn't shown up to kill those people, Sosuke would have been just like tortured more, possibly to death, because if he's the Hound, and if the Youngbloods find out the Blue Bloods want him alive, they probably would have tortured him to death. Because the Youngbloods don't want House Ikaria to have the Hound, and they don't want the Old Guard to have the Promised Child. So, indirectly, Morgan just saved this happy family by being a fucking murderous monster of a human being. She saved this happy family that also are a bunch of mobsters, but she saved a happy family from being completely broken up. Holy fuck, man. No, I didn't do anything. I see. Then perhaps his injuries were just taxing him more than we realized. That must be it. Yeah, no. Couldn't possibly be that he, I am blown away, guys. Holy fuck. I know you're not there now, but you will be later. It had been threatening to rain all day. Gray skies spanning a slate blue world. It was cold, and all the heaters were humming in their rush to overcorrect it. At 3 o'clock, raindrops started hitting the windowsills. Not a problem, she had her umbrella. At 3:15, the adults started leaning back in their chairs. Watches and phones were being checked. They were prepared to leave. At 3:24, another topic is brought up. The gathering resigns themselves to a continuation. It's 3:45 by the time the girl is able to excuse herself. She has 15 minutes to get back to school. Hardly impossible on foot if she hurried, but she could have asked to be driven there. For some reason, the thought never crossed her mind. She hesitates at the door. She'd left her umbrella back behind upstairs. It's not like her to be so absent-minded. The smart thing to do would be to go back up and get it. It's 3:49. At 3:51, she is jogging, a non-committal yet still undignified rush. When she sees the time on her phone roll over to 3:52, she starts to run. She hates running. A small part of her considers sending a text. She'd never been the one to text first. Come to think of it, she'd never been one to text second. She only had one number in her phone's contacts, after all. At 3:56, the school gates are in sight. Her eyes had been straining to see them. She wasn't looking down. Her knees strung in a shallow, sharp way. The palms of her hands were embedded with specks of gravel where she caught herself. Rain-diluted blood ran faintly down her leg as she dripped water onto the mundanely tiled floors of the hallway. At 3:59, she pauses to at least catch her breath before sliding the door open. If her heart hadn't been beating so loudly in her ears, she would have easily heard the voices behind it. Where'd you even come up with this stuff? Hey, I can't promise it's going to be that exciting every week around here, but... Ev, what are you? I thought you had a family thing. Oh shit, are you okay? What happened? You're soaked and... I thought we're the Mystery Club. Name pending, I hope. I was told the name could change. You were right, Ev. I just went around to people on campus and tried being friendly, being myself, and people started signing up. But forget that. Your knee. Ev. So is her name Evelyn Morgan? Man, that is such an American name. American names are really funny because sometimes they read out like you're just saying two separate people's names. Like Aaron Johnson or Taylor Allen. It's two first names. So like Evelyn Morgan, it just sounds like two first names. So this game has to be in America. But forget that, your knee. It's fine. You must be freezing. Let me give you my coat. Screw it, I'll just carry you to the nurse myself. Stop. Ma'am, this girl just showed up and she's bleeding. What? Bleeding? Everyone, stand back. Where is she? Who? What's her name? I don't know, I don't think I've seen her before. You, girl, come with me, I'm taking you to the infirmary. Ma'am, she's cold. That's very nice of you, but it's not sanitary to share uniforms. Stay here and wait for the floors to be cleaned. Ev, Don't worry about it. I can walk on my own. I'm not sure what to gather from that scene. That scene is actually incredibly interesting. Because now it makes me question, was this girl in the previous flashbacks, was she not being sarcastic? Is this a moment that haunts Morgan because it's a moment that she realized that someone had unambiguously done something good for her when they didn't need to? And for some reason, this is a haunting memory for Morgan? Or did this girl, like, steal the glory of having the Mystery Club from Morgan? Is that the implication? Very interesting. Bar Kintsugi. And with a little sprinkle of salt just along the edge, there you have it. Oh, that looks wonderful. Thank you. Of course, let me know if you need anything else. I must admit, Morgan, this is quite a fine establishment. And so exclusive, the whole staff here on hand to attend just the two of us. I can't imagine what the waiting list must be like. Right? Luckily for you, you've got a man working on the inside. I can assure you a table at any time, Sosuke. You or any of your housemates ever need a quiet spot to lay low from the judging eyes of high society? Now you know where to send them. I might just do that. And these prices, so reasonable. Shit, I knew I should have gone with the digital menus. Hey, Sosuke, that name they have for you, the Hound, that a title you were given or just part of the mantle you chose to take up? No, I was called that long before I started delivering messages. long before I got my tattoo. Truth be told, I'm not sure where it came from or when people started using it. Childhood nickname, I suppose. Earned by following Mireille around like a puppy? I never, Who told you Mireille was the heir when we were... It's a miracle you didn't break under torture. You know that? A hound of Icaria. So everyone called you a dog when you were a kid? Jokingly. Lovingly. Mireille's right. I don't know anything about whoever this is. One of many things I've long since acknowledged that I'm missing. I don't know anything about love. One of the many things I've long since acknowledged that I'm missing. But obsession, addiction, those are easy enough to grasp. I've rolled the dice plenty of times by now. Nice titties. There's no demons haunting me, no other drivers in the car. Just me sitting in the dark with a hole in my chest. You're covering the hole up pretty well. When it's hungry, I feed it. But it'll never be full. Because the hole was there first. And it built a girl around itself so it would have a place to hide. How can you tell? That they called you that lovingly? I suppose you never know. You just trust. And if you do trust, then that's your answer. And besides, what's insulting about being compared to a dog? Everyone loves dogs. Probably even you. For your information, I like dogs just fine, Sosuke. But I could never live as one. Everyone's already collared in this world. Tagged, labeled, classified, and put in a box. But even so, I refuse to sit at the end of someone's leash. Better to remain astray. Oh, I think that's what I'm gathering now from her dream sequences. Credits! Yes. Auto. Hell yeah. This game is so fucking good. I cannot wait for the next episode. I don't know how many episodes are going to come out that'll complete the story, but my god. But what's so interesting about Morgan is that if the horror of that dream, of those dreams she having, is the horror of realizing that maybe somebody actually did love her and wasn't actually bullying her or being sarcastic, they were being completely and utterly sincere, and Morgan hadn't realized until that moment. And for some reason, the memory of somebody having platonic love for her, for some reason, has fucking destroyed Morgan's psyche. For some reason. Because she doesn't see herself as knowing what love feels like. That's what she just said to herself in her head right there. She doesn't know what the feeling of love is. I don't know what other word it is that would be censored out. It was a 4-letter word, and it was Mireille saying you don't understand, aka you don't understand love. Like, there's no way it was anything other than I don't understand what love is like. And so that dream from when Morgan was a kid, it haunts her because she realized that somebody actually cared about her and loved her in some capacity. Which is, like, that's so interesting. That somebody is such a psycho that that for some reason they are psychologically hurt by the concept that somebody actually genuinely cares about them. His due, Finn. And he's drunk as shit now. They're both drunk as shit. Oh, that's so nice. kid. I wasn't looking out for anything in particular. Oh, I didn't turn auto off, excuse me. The Rust give me and the others food and stuff for telling them where the Blues go and who they talk to. My shoes have been feeling too small, and the blue guys in that building have been really busy lately. I thought if I hung around there, I might see something the Rust would give me new shoes for. But I never saw anything worth anything. So you gave up? No. I got scared. What scared you? You won't believe me. No one believes me. Everyone says I'm a liar. Everyone says I'm a liar too. Are you? I can't remember. You see, somebody took something that belonged to me. I don't feel right without it, but I think you could help me find it. What'd you lose? What'd you lose? My face. I saw the Red Hood. Except she was a lady, not a girl, and she didn't have her hood up. I didn't get a good look at her face, but she was all red. Red hair? What's this? Gold. Thanks? But are you sure? I wasn't any help. You've been a huge help. Now I know to look for red hair. I've tracked more elusive prey with less. To be continued in Of the Devil, Episode 3. Quoting scripture. Is the next chapter gonna be about religion in this universe? Oh. Results. 6 out of 7 articles, 22 out of 22 profiles, 33 out of 34 key terms, 28 of 28 of evidence, 58 total credits earned. Congratulations, you finished episode 2 with 56 credits. Your high score for episode 2 is currently 56. You've unlocked concept art and bonus scenarios based on this score. You also have a total of 229 remaining store credits to spend on phone charms and case colors based on the highest credit with which you finished this episode. Now let's go main menu. We need to be done because it's very, very late. But I wanted to finish the game because, well, we got to the end. I'm going to talk about this a lot next week. Holy mackerel. What a fucking incredible game. Oh, I love the writing in this game. Oh, fuck. I can't wait for the next episode, but I want them to make sure that they write it just as good. Because god damn is it so fucking well written. Thank you all very much for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate you coming here to hang out with me. We will be back in 4 days, Wednesday, if you live in the United States. I don't know what we'll be playing because I'm not sure if the Everything is Crab full game will be out on Wednesday or not. Hopefully it will be. If it is, boom, we're immediately doing it. We're going to immediately play the full game for Everything is Crab. If not, we can just go back to Megabonk, or I can reopen Door from Antique. So that's what we'll be doing. Next Friday, Saturday, I don't actually know. I'll have to come up with something. Now that we just got done with, like, one of the best written games I've ever fucking played, we're going to have to find something else, unfortunately. Funny enough, in theory, I could go and play Silk Song again, because apparently there was an entire zone that I did not discover in Silk Song. So I could temporarily go back just to do that zone and, like, the 1 or 2 boss battles that are there. That could be cool. But I would prefer to find something new, obviously. But yeah. If you happen to be new here and you enjoyed hanging out with us, if you think I deserve a follow or a subscribe, I'd appreciate that quite a bit. We stream 3 times a week for approximately 2 hours. And this stream will be re-uploaded to YouTube tomorrow night, where it will join every single stream I've ever done. So if there are any you want to catch up on, you can find all of them there. Link is in the About section. And yeah, I should get the fuck out because it's very, very, very late. So yeah, I just gotta fucking go, guys. We'll talk about this a lot more next time I'm streaming. So thank you all very much for being here. I appreciate your support in every capacity. I hope you have a good afternoon, evening, morning, etc. and I will see you all again soon with a chill stream. Ciao!